I was always going to watch Squid Game. From the very first trailer I saw, I knew it fell into a genre that I sit very comfortable with. But what if you don't know if it's your cup of tea? Well, I have you covered with a Squid Game Netflix review. I'm Beggles and I usually walk in the indie game space, but if you do like this review, let me know and subscribe to the channel. I will keep the first half spoiler free, but there will be details from the later episodes towards the end. So what is Squid Game? It's a Korean action drama show that has just released on Netflix that follows the traumatic experiences of a group of people who are playing some schoolyard games in an unknown location well away from society. It all seems like fun and games at first, but quickly the contestants realise that losing is a fatal event. And any aspect of fun quickly goes out the door as the bullets and blood starts flying. Each death results in an addition to the prize pool. And as you can imagine, when millions of dollars are at stake, there's a little bit of aggression happening here. Squid Game sits comfortably in the Hunger Games style of people's death for entertainment area, although unlike dystopian books and films, it is set within current times in Korea. The main character of the series is Seong Ji-hoon, and we learn very quickly that he's pretty much a loser, a gambler, a dysfunctional father, and not all that likable indeed. This is a trait that you will find with a large host of characters in Squid Game, as we learn that they are all crippled by debt, and the game really is their last chance to escape the inevitable consequences of their poor choices. Do be expecting a lot of stereotype characters, from the young, moody, quiet, but highly effective Kang Se-byuk, to the very buff and antagonistic criminal Jang Deok-soo. However, the addition of the timid Abdul Ali, a foreign worker from Pakistan, and Oh Il-nam, an elderly dying man, does add an interesting dynamic that we get learning about the characters. Indeed, one of the reasons that I would completely recommend watching Squid Game is for the way that the characters interact and strategize throughout the whole process. Yeah, it is cliche at times, but the dialogue is interesting, and you can't help but to start to have your favourite characters, which in a game that leads contestants towards death is probably not a healthy thing to do. Squid Game has this interesting mechanic of setting the tone very early, that the contestants will be playing 6 different games, and we're probably starting to head towards spoiler territory here. What this does is heighten your interest as characters are getting ready to compete. You can't help but wonder and predict what the next game will be, just as the characters are, and when that music starts and the game is about to begin, you find yourself sitting up, ready to spectate a little bit more intently, just like others might be doing. The games though are a bit hit and miss. Given the scope of the first game is so epic, red light, green light, in which you would have seen this lovely doll from the trailers, moving along to some simple games like the honeycomb scene was a bit of an anticlimax for me. Full points to the bridge game, which for mine is the most interesting game played, and interestingly enough coincided with what I would say is my biggest gripe of the series, which starts to bear its head towards the end. The introduction of the VIP is obviously a plot tool designed to start to explain the why of the games, and whilst millionaires gambling on death games is not in any way original, it's still a concept that would make sense if it wasn't for the absolute shocking choice of VIP cast and dialogue. I don't know if it's the actors or just really poor writing, but there wasn't a single VIP scene that sits comfortably within the quality of the rest of the show. My favourite comment I read about the VIP scenes online was that they are just really cringe, and it completely described how I felt watching them. I do think that Squid Game found it hard trying to bring everything together, with attempts to add complexity with the divers and organ harvesting, all the way to the very open ending which leaves a lot of questions, and obviously the ability to create a second season if the first does well enough. But let's move on to the ending. The scene with the dying Oh Il-nam really doesn't provide all that much closure, and whilst it's an interesting twist, one that I didn't see coming, it still reeks of, we do it because we're kind of arseholes, and I don't know if that's a complexity that this show deserves. Then we have Seong Ji-hoon, the person who has grown from this loser to a very likeable character, who turns his back on his promise to his daughter to go and fight the Squid Game establishment. Yeah, that doesn't sit too well with me, and I wonder if they've compromised the ability to close this series really well by making sure that there's a possibility of a sequel. Don't get me wrong, I love this series and would happily watch it again. I just feel that there's a few areas that the writers have been unable to bring everything together, and that mostly sits with the big picture. Why is this all happening realm of the story? Let me know what you think of Squid Game. And if you've watched the series, tell me if I'm wrong about those VIP scenes. I need a second opinion there.